Friends, if you want to watch super hit movie The Avengers in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called The Avengers. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it. All the interesting about this movie in today's video. I am going to tell you. I am also going to give you all the information on which I request you friends to watch this video till the ends. So let's start the video. Marvel's The Avengers is a 2012 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics superhero team of the same name. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. It is the sixth film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. Written and directed by Joss Whedon, the film features an ensemble cast including Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, and Jeremy Renner as the Avengers, alongside Tom Hiddleston, Stellan Skarsgård, and Samuel L. Jackson. In the film, Nick Fury and the spy agency S.H.I.E.L.D. recruit Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Bruce Banner, Thor, Natasha Romanoff, and Clint Barton to form a team capable of stopping Thor's brother Loki from subjugating Earth. The film's development began when Marvel Studios received a loan from Merrill Lynch in April 2005. After the success of the film Iron Man in May 2008, Marvel announced that The Avengers would be released in July 2011 and would bring together Stark, Downey, Rogers, Evans, Banner, at the time portrayed by Edward Norton, and Thor, Hemsworth, from Marvel's previous films. With the signing of Johansson as Romanoff in March 2009, Renner as Barton in June 2010, and Ruffalo replacing Norton as Banner in July 2010, the film was pushed back for a 2012 release. Whedon was brought on board in April 2010 and rewrote the original screenplay by Zach Penn. Production began in April 2011 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, before moving to Cleveland, Ohio in August and New York City in September. The film has more than 2,200 visual effects shots. The Avengers premiered at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles on April 11, 2012, and was released in the United States on May 4 as the final film in Phase 1 of the MCU. The film received praise for Whedon's direction and screenplay, visual effects, action sequences, acting, and musical score. It grossed over $1.5 billion worldwide, setting numerous box office records and becoming the third highest-grossing film of all time at the time of its release and the highest-grossing film of 2012. It was the first Marvel production to generate $1 billion in ticket sales. In 2017, The Avengers was featured as one of the 100 greatest films of all time in an Empire magazine poll. It received a nomination for Best Visual Effects at the 85th Academy Awards, among numerous other accolades. 3 sequels have been released: Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron 2015, Avengers Infinity War 2018, and Avengers Endgame 2019. Plot: the Asgardian Loki encounters the Other, the representative of an extraterrestrial race known as the Chitauri. In exchange for obtaining the Tesseract, a powerful energy source of unknown potential, the Other promises to provide Loki with an army to conquer Earth. Nick Fury, director of the covert agency S.H.I.E.L.D., arrives at a remote research facility where physicist Dr. Eric Selvig is leading a team studying the Tesseract. It suddenly activates and opens a portal, allowing Loki to reach Earth. Loki steals the Tesseract and uses his scepter to enslave Selvig and other agents, including Clint Barton, to aid him. In response, Fury reactivates the Avengers Initiative. Agent Natasha Romanoff travels to Kolkata to recruit Dr. Bruce Banner so he can trace the Tesseract through its gamma radiation emissions. Fury approaches Steve Rogers to discuss his knowledge of the Tesseract, and Agent Phil Coulson visits Tony Stark so he can check Selvig's research. Loki is in Stuttgart, where Barton steals iridium needed to stabilize the Tesseract. This leads to a confrontation with Rogers, Stark, and Romanoff that ends with Loki's surrender. While Loki is being escorted to S.H.I.E.L.D., his adoptive brother Thor arrives and frees him, hoping to convince him to abandon his plan and return to Asgard. Stark and Rogers intervene, and Loki is imprisoned in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s flying base, the Helicarrier. The Avengers disagree on how to approach Loki and become argumentative once they realize S.H.I.E.L.D. plans to use the Tesseract to create weapons of mass destruction to use against extraterrestrial threats. During the argument, Loki's agents attack the helicarrier, and in the chaos, Banner transforms into the Hulk. Stark and Rogers restart the damaged engine, while Thor attempts to stop the Hulk's rampage. Romanoff subdues Barton, freeing him from Loki's influence. Loki escapes after mortally wounding Coulson. Fury uses Coulson's subsequent death to motivate the Avengers to work together as a team. Loki uses the Tesseract and a generator Selvig built to open a portal above Stark Tower in New York City to bring his Chitauri fleet and start his invasion. Rogers, Stark, Romanoff, Barton, Thor, and the Hulk work together to protect New York from the Chitauri. The Hulk incapacitates Loki while Romanoff learns from Selvig, now freed from Loki's mind control, that Loki's scepter can shut down the generator. Fury's superiors from the World Security Council attempt to end the invasion by launching a nuclear missile at Midtown Manhattan. Stark intercepts the missile and flies it through the wormhole toward the Chitauri fleet. The missile destroys the Chitauri mothership and disables their forces on Earth. Stark becomes unconscious and his suit loses power, leaving him free-falling towards Earth. The Avengers manage to catch and resuscitate him, while Romanoff uses Loki's scepter to close the wormhole. In the aftermath, Thor transports an imprisoned Loki and the Tesseract to Asgard, where Loki will face Asgardian justice. In a mid-credits scene, the other confers with his master about the failed attack on Earth. Cast Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man, a self-described genius, billionaire, playboy, and philanthropist who wears an electromechanical suit of armor of his own invention. Downey was cast as part of his 4-picture deal with Marvel Studios, which included Iron Man 2, 2010, and The Avengers. He initially suggested to Whedon that Stark should be the lead character, stating, "Well, I said, I need to be in the opening sequence. I don't know what you're thinking, but Tony needs to drive this thing." He was like, "Okay, let's try that." We tried it and it didn't work, because this is a different sort of thing. The story and the idea and the theme is the theme, and everybody is just an arm of the octopus. Downey commented on the character's evolution, stating, "In Iron Man, which was an origin story, he was his own epiphany and redemption of sorts. Iron Man 2 is all about not being an island, dealing with legacy issues and making space for others. In The Avengers, he's throwing it down with the others." Downey earned $50 million from the film, once box office bonuses and back-end compensation were factored in. Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, Captain America, a World War II veteran who was enhanced to the peak of human physicality by an experimental serum and frozen in suspended animation before waking up in the modern world. Evans was cast as part of a deal to star in 3 Marvel films, including The Avengers. Rogers is depicted as darker in The Avengers, with Evans stating it's just about him trying to come to terms with the modern world. You've got to imagine, it's enough of a shock to accept the fact that you're in a completely different time, but everybody you know is dead. Everybody you cared about. He was a soldier, obviously. Everybody he went to battle with, all of his brothers in arms, they're all dead. He's just lonely. I think in the beginning it's a fish out of water scene. And it's tough. It's a tough pill for him to swallow. Then comes trying to find a balance with the modern world. Evans also discussed the dynamic between Rogers and Tony Stark, saying, "I think there's certainly a dichotomy, this kind of friction between myself and Tony Stark. They're polar opposites. One guy is flash and spotlight and smooth, and the other guy is selfless and in the shadows and kind of quiet, and they have to get along. They explore that, and it's pretty fun." Evans earned $3 million for the film. Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, Hulk, a genius scientist who, due to exposure to gamma radiation, transforms into a monster when enraged or agitated. Ruffalo, initially considered for the role in The Incredible Hulk 2008 before Edward Norton took on the part, was cast after negotiations between Marvel and Norton fell through. Reflecting on replacing Norton, Ruffalo stated, "I'm a friend of Ed's, and yeah, that wasn't a great way for all that to go down. But the way I see it is that Ed has bequeathed this part to me. I look at it as my generation's Hamlet." Discussing the character, he explained, "He's a guy struggling with 2 sides of himself, the dark and the light, and everything he does in his life is filtered through issues of control. I grew up on the Bill Bixby TV series, which I thought was a really nuanced and real human way to look at the Hulk. I like that the part has those qualities. Ruffalo described the Hulk's role on the team, stating, "He's like the teammate none of them are sure they want on their team. He's a loose cannon. It's like, just throw a grenade in the middle of the group, and let's hope it turns out well." This is the first production in which the actor playing Banner also plays the Hulk. Ruffalo expressed excitement about the prospect, saying, "I'm really excited. No one's ever played the Hulk exactly. They've always done CGI. They're going to do the Avatar stop-action stop-motion capture, so I'll actually play the Hulk. That'll be fun." The 3D model used to create the Hulk's body was based on Long Island bodybuilder and male stripper Steve Rom, while Ruffalo's face served as the model for the Hulk's facial features. To produce the Hulk's voice, Ruffalo's voice was combined with those of Lou Ferrigno and others. However, Ruffalo provided the Hulk's sole speaking line, "Puny God," himself. Ruffalo earned $2 to $3 million for his role in the film. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, the Crown Prince of Asgard, based on the Norse mythological deity of the same name. Hemsworth was cast as part of a multiple movie deal. He had previously collaborated with Joss Whedon on The Cabin in the Woods, 2011. Hemsworth maintained his physique from Thor, 2011, by consuming a high-protein diet consisting of chicken breasts, fish, steak, and eggs daily. When asked about the quantity, he humorously replied, "My body weight in protein, pretty much." Thor's motivation in The Avengers is described by Hemsworth as personal, as it involves his brother's disruptive actions. He explained, "It's much more of a personal one, in the sense that it's his brother that is stirring things up, whereas everyone else, it's some bad guy who they've got to take down. It's a different approach for me, or for Thor. He's constantly having to battle the greater good and what he should do versus it's his little brother there. I've been frustrated with my brothers at times, or family, but I'm the only one who is allowed to be angry at them. There's a bit of that." Hemsworth earned $2 to $3 million for his role in the film. Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, a highly trained spy working for S.H.I.E.L.D. Johansson discussed her character's relationship with Hawkeye, stating, "Our characters have a long history. They fought together for a long time in a lot of battles in many different countries. We're the two members of this avenging group who are skilled warriors. We have no superpowers." Black Widow is definitely one of the team though. She's not in the cast simply to be a romantic foil or eye candy. She's there to fight, so I never felt like I was the only girl. We all have our various skills, and it feels equal. Regarding her training for the role, Johansson mentioned, "Even though Iron Man 2 was one for them, I'd never done anything like that before. I'd never been physically driven in something or a part of something so big. For the Avengers, I've spent so many months training with our stunt team and fighting all the other actors, it's crazy. I do nothing but fight, all the time." Johansson earned $4 to $6 million for her portrayal in the film. Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton, Hawkeye, a master archer working as an agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. Renner prepared for the physically demanding role by training extensively and practicing archery. He expressed his appreciation for Hawkeye's character, stating, "When I saw Iron Man, I thought that was a really kick-ass approach to superheroes. Then they told me about this Hawkeye character, and I liked how he wasn't really a superhero, he's just a guy with a high skill set. I could connect to that." Regarding Hawkeye's relationship with Natasha Romanoff, Renner explained, "It's a lonely game. He's an outcast. His only connection is to Scarlett's character, Natasha. It's like a left-hand, right-hand thing. They coexist, and you need them both, especially when it comes to a physical mission." Renner emphasized that Hawkeye is confident in his abilities and not insecure about his humanity, stating, "Quite the opposite. He's the only one who can really take down the Hulk with his tranquilizer-tipped arrows. He knows his limitations. But when it comes down to it, there has to be a sense of confidence in any superhero." Renner earned $2 to $3 million for his role in the film. Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Thor's adoptive brother and nemesis, based on the Norse mythological deity of the same name. Hiddleston reflected on his character's evolution from the film Thor, stating, "I think the Loki we see in the Avengers is further advanced. You have to ask yourself the question, How pleasant an experience is it disappearing into a wormhole that has been created by some kind of super nuclear explosion of his own making. So I think by the time Loki shows up in the Avengers, he's seen a few things. Regarding Loki's motivations, Hiddleston explained, at the beginning of the Avengers, he comes to Earth to subjugate it, and his idea is to rule the human race as their king. And like all the delusional autocrats of human history, he thinks this is a great idea, because if everyone is busy worshipping him, there will be no wars, so he will create some kind of world peace by ruling them as a tyrant. But he is also kind of deluded in the fact that he thinks unlimited power will give him self-respect, so I haven't let go of the fact that he is still motivated by this terrible jealousy and kind of spiritual desolation. Stellan Skarsgård as Erik Selvig, an astrophysicist and friend of Thor under Loki's control who is studying the Tesseract's power. Skarsgård commented on Loki's control over Selvig, stating, well, with the scene we did in Thor, it was like Loki, one way or the other, entered Erik's mind. And in Avengers, you will see more clarity in how Loki is using Erik's mind. Regarding his role, he added, my character is of importance, but the size of the role is not big. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., who was revealed in previous films to be coordinating the Avengers initiative. Jackson was brought to the project with a deal containing an option to play the character in up to 9 Marvel films. Jackson expressed that he has a more significant role in the Avengers compared to previous films. You don't have to wait until the end of the movie to see me. Reflecting on the role, Jackson stated, it's always good to play somebody who is a positive in society, as opposed to somebody who is a negative. I tried to make him as honest to the story and as honest to what real life would seem. He likened the character to Ordell Robbie and Jackie Brown, describing him as a nice guy to hang out with. You just don't want to cross him. Jackson earned $4 to $6 million for the film. Clark Gregg appears as Phil Coulson, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent overseeing many of the division's field operations. 40. Gregg was cast as part of a multi-picture deal with Marvel. He noted that his role was expanded in the Avengers, expressing what Agent Coulson had become in terms of the import of this particular story and how important his job is in bringing the Avengers together. It kind of felt a little surreal, like somebody was playing a prank and that wasn't the real script. But it wasn't. It was the real thing. I got to show up and do that stuff. And it felt like such an amazing payoff to what the journey had been and the fact I had been doing it for 5 years. Gregg said Whedon provided insight into his character's backstory, particularly about Coulson being a fan of Captain America. Kobe Smulders appears as Maria Hill, a high-ranking S.H.I.E.L.D. agent working closely with Nick Fury. Smulders, initially considered by Whedon for his unproduced live-action Wonder Woman film, was selected from a short list of potential actresses, including Morena Baccarin. Her deal integrated her into 9 films. Regarding her preparation, Smulders said, I hired this amazing Black Ops trainer to teach me how to hold a gun, take me to a shooting range, how to hit, how to hold myself, how to walk, and basically how to look. I don't do a ton of fighting in the movie, which is why I wasn't offered a trainer, but I wanted to look like I had the ability to. On relating to the character, Smulders said, I can relate to her being a mom and being a businesswoman and trying to work full-time and raising a family and having a career. We're asked to do a lot of things these days. I feel she is just all about her job and keeping things going. Gwyneth Paltrow and Maximiliano Hernandez reprised their roles as Pepper Potts and Jasper Sitwell, respectively, from previous MCU films. Paul Bettany returns to voice JRVS. Frequent Whedon collaborator Alexis Denisov portrays the Other, while Damien Poitier portrays his master, Thanos, unnamed in the film, in a post-credits scene. Powers Booth and Jenny Agutter appear as members of the World Security Council, later revealed to be Gideon Malik and Councilwoman Hawley. Avengers co-creator Stan Lee makes a cameo appearance in a news report. Additionally, Harry Dean Stanton cameos as a security guard, and Polish film director Jerzy Skolimowski appears as Georgi Lushkov, Romanov's interrogator. Warren Kola has a brief role as a S.H.I.E.L.D. bridge tech who is caught playing Galaga. Enver Jokaj and Ashley Johnson, the former who would later play Daniel Sousa in the series Agent Carter, 2015 to 2016, appear as a police officer and a waitress named Beth, respectively. Production development ideas for a film based on the Avengers began in 2003, with Avi Arad, the CEO of Marvel Studios, first announcing plans to develop the film in April 2005, after Marvel Enterprises declared independence by allying with Merrill Lynch to produce a slate of films that would be distributed by Paramount Pictures. Marvel discussed their plans in a brief presentation to Wall Street analysts. The studio's intention was to release individual films for the main characters to establish their identities and familiarize audiences with them before merging the characters together in a crossover film. Screenwriter Zach Penn, who wrote The Incredible Hulk, became attached to the film in 2006 and was hired by Marvel Studios to write the film in June 2007. In the wake of the 2007-2008 Writers Guild of America strike, Marvel negotiated with the Writers Guild of America to ensure that it could create films based on its comic book counterparts, including Captain America, Ant-Man, and the Avengers. After the successful release of Iron Man 2008 in May, the company set a July 2011 release date for the Avengers. In September 2008, Marvel Studios reached an agreement with Paramount, an extension of a previous partnership, which gave the company distribution rights for 5 future Marvel films. Casting began in October 2008 with Downey's signing. Although Don Cheadle was reported to reprise his Iron Man 2 role of War Machine for the Avengers, he later stated that he did not think the character would appear in the film. Simultaneously, 2 major developments occurred for Marvel. Jon Favreau was brought in as an executive producer for the film, and the company signed a long-term lease with Raleigh Studios to produce 3 other big-budget films, Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America: The First Avenger 2011, at their Manhattan Beach, California complex. In February 2009, Samuel L. Jackson signed a 9-picture deal with Marvel Entertainment to play Nick Fury in Iron Man 2 and other films. In September 2009, Edward Norton, who played Bruce Banner in The Incredible Hulk, stated he was open to returning in the film. The next month, executive producer Jon Favreau stated he would not direct the film, but would definitely have input and a say. Favreau also expressed concerns, stating, "It's going to be hard because I was so involved in creating the world of Iron Man, and Iron Man is very much a tech-based hero. And then with Avengers, you're going to be introducing some supernatural aspects because of Thor. The 2 of those works very well in the comic books, but it's going to take a lot of thoughtfulness to make that all work and not blow the reality that we've created." In March 2009, Scarlett Johansson replaced Emily Blunt in portraying Natasha Romanoff in Iron Man 2, a deal that subsequently attached her to the Avengers. The following day, Marvel announced that the film's release date had been pushed back to May 4, 2012, almost a full year later. Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston joined the film's cast in June, returning as Thor and Loki, respectively. In July 2009, Penn discussed the crossover process, stating, "My job is to kind of shuttle between the different movies and make sure that, finally, we're mimicking that comic book structure, where all of these movies are connected. There's just a board that tracks, here's where everything that happens in this movie overlaps with that movie. I'm pushing them to do as many animatics as possible, to animate the movie, to draw boards, so that we're all working off the same visual ideas. But the exigencies of production take first priority." Initially, Penn attempted to reduce Thor's role in the script due to doubts about the character's ability to succeed on film. However, he changed his mind once Hemsworth was cast as Thor. Although the film always intended to use Loki as its villain, Penn noted that early discussions had considered using Red Skull. In January 2010, Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige was asked if it would be challenging to blend the fantasy of Thor with the high-tech science fiction in Iron Man and the Avengers. "No," he said, "because we're doing the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee / Simonson, J. Michael Straczynski Thor. We're not doing the blow the dust off of the old Norse book in your library Thor, and in the Thor of the Marvel Universe, there's a race called the Asgardians, and we're linked through this tree of life that we're unaware of. It's real science, but we don't know about it yet." The Thor movie is about teaching people that. In March, it was reported that Penn had completed the first draft of the script, and that Marvel editor-in-chief Joe Quesada and Avengers comic book writer Brian Michael Bendis had received copies in weeks. Also in March, Chris Evans accepted an offer to play Captain America in 3 films including The Avengers. Pre-production. By April 2010, Joss Whedon was nearing the completion of a deal to direct the film and to revise Penn's script, and was officially announced in July 2010. Regarding the hiring, Arad stated, "My personal opinion is that Joss will do a fantastic job. He loves these characters and is a fantastic writer. It's part of his life, so you know he is going to protect it. I expect someone, like him, is going to make the script even better." Feige added, "I've known Joss for many years. We were looking for the right thing, and he came in and met on it. We want to find a director that's on the verge of doing something great, as we think Joss is." Whedon stated at the 2010 San Diego Comic-Con that what drew him to the film is that he loves how these people shouldn't be in the same room, let alone on the same team. And that is the definition of family. When Whedon received Penn's draft, he told Feige he felt the studio did not have anything, and they should pretend this draft never happened. Part of Whedon's issue was the lack of character connections in Penn's draft, which necessitated Whedon to begin at square one. Whedon went on to write a 5-page treatment of his plan for the film and created the tagline, "Avengers, some assembly required," riffing on the Avengers Assemble from the comic books. Marvel quickly began working to sign Whedon to write and direct, only stipulating that he include the Avengers against Loki, a battle among the heroes in the middle, a battle against the villains at the end, and that he get the film done for its May 2012 release. The script went through a lot of insane iterations of what might be. According to Whedon, there was a point when it was not certain Johansson would star in the film, so he wrote a huge bunch of pages starring the Wasp, 58, and wanted Zooey Deschanel to play the character Vrak. He also was worried that one British character actor was not enough to take on Earth's mightiest heroes, and that we'd feel like we were rooting for the overdog. So I wrote a huge draft with Ezekiel Stane, Obadiah Stane's son, in it. Once all of the actors were locked in place, the movie stayed on mission. Whedon noted that the characters used do not have the same issue, unlike the X-Men. He felt, these guys just don't belong together, before realizing their interactions could be like The Dirty Dozen, 1967. Whedon also referenced Dr. Strangelove, 1964, The Abyss, 1989, His Girl Friday, 1940, and Black Hawk Down, 2001. Whedon would ultimately share final screenplay credit with Penn, though Whedon noted he fought for sole credit and was very upset about it. Penn felt the two could have collaborated more, but that was not his choice. He wanted to do it his way, and I respect that. The casting process continued throughout much of 2010, with the additions of Jeremy Renner, Mark Ruffalo, and Clark Gregg. Ruffalo replaced Edward Norton, whom Marvel declined to bring back. "We have made the decision to not bring Ed Norton back to portray the title role of Bruce Banner in The Avengers," stated Feige. "Our decision is definitely not one based on monetary factors, but instead rooted in the need for an actor who embodies the creativity and collaborative spirit of our other talented cast members. The Avengers demands players who thrive working as part of an ensemble, as evidenced by Robert, Chris H., Chris E., Samuel, Scarlett, and all of our talented casts. We are looking to announce a name actor who fulfills these requirements and is passionate about the iconic role in the coming weeks." In response, Norton's agent Brian Swardstrom decried Feige's statement, calling it purposefully misleading and an inappropriate attempt to paint our client in a negative light. In October 2014, Norton claimed it was his own decision never to play Hulk again because he wanted more diversity with his career and did not want to be associated with only one character. In August 2010, it was reported that Paramount Pictures and Marvel Studios were planning to start shooting in February. In October 2010, Grumman Studios in Bethpage, New York, and the Steiner Studios in Brooklyn, New York City, were announced as filming locations with set construction slated to begin in November. But as Whedon later explained, originally we were supposed to be in Los Angeles, then for a short period, we were supposed to be in New York. And then somehow we ended up in Albuquerque. Also that October, Walt Disney Studios agreed to pay Paramount at least $115 million for the worldwide distribution rights to Iron Man 3, 2013, and The Avengers. The deal also allowed Paramount to continue to collect the 8% box office fee it would have earned for distributing the film and a marquee credit, placement of the company's production logo on marketing materials and the film's opening titles. As a result, the on-screen production credit reads, Marvel Studios presents in association with Paramount Pictures, though the film is solely owned, distributed, financed, and marketed by Disney. Paramount's Epix retained pay TV rights. In December 2010, Governor of New Mexico Bill Richardson and Marvel Studios co-president Louis D'Esposito announced that The Avengers would primarily film in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with principal photography scheduled for April through September 2011. Parts of the film were also slated to be shot in Michigan, but plans to film in Detroit were scrapped after Governor Rick Snyder proposed a budget that would eliminate a film tax incentive. 3 months later, in March, Governor of Ohio John Kasich announced during Mayor Frank G. Jackson's State of the City address that The Avengers would also film in Cleveland. Concept illustrator and designer of Iron Man's Mark VII armor, Phil Saunders, stated that Joss Whedon was looking for something that had the cool factor of the suitcase suit from Iron Man 2, while still being a fully armored, heavy-duty suit that could take on an army in the final battle. To achieve this, Saunders combined ideas proposed in Iron Man 2 with some concepts abandoned in the first Iron Man film, creating a modular suit featuring large ammo packets on the arms and a backpack. Additionally, the Science and Entertainment Exchange provided science consultation for the film. Casting reached its final stages the following year. In February 2011, Cobie Smulders was cast in the role of Maria Hill after participating in screen tests conducted by Marvel for the role of a key S.H.I.E.L.D. member, whom Samuel L. Jackson described as Nick Fury's sidekick. Morena Baccarin, Jessica Lucas, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead were also considered for the role. Over the successive months, the film's cast expanded to include Stellan Skarsgård, Paul Bettany, and Gwyneth Paltrow. Paltrow was cast at Downey's insistence. Prior to this, Whedon had not intended the film to include supporting characters from the hero's individual films, commenting, "You need to separate the characters from their support systems in order to create the isolation you need for a team." Filming principal photography began on April 25, 2011, at Albuquerque Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with the working title Group Hug 100. In June 2011, stuntman Jeremy Fitzgerald sustained a head injury while attempting a stunt involving a 30-foot fall from a building after being struck by an arrow. Despite the injury, Fitzgerald recovered and resumed work on set, as confirmed by a Marvel spokesperson to TMZ. Second unit filming occurred in the Butler area, about an hour outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the following month. Additionally, a chase sequence was shot in Worthington, Pennsylvania, at Creekside Mushroom Farms, which provided 150 miles of abandoned limestone tunnels 300 feet below the ground for filming. Production shifted to Cleveland, Ohio in August 2011, where filming spanned 4 weeks. The city's East 9th Street was selected as a stand-in for New York City's 42nd Street, serving as the backdrop for climactic battle scenes. Army Reserve soldiers from the 391st Military Police Battalion, based in Columbus, Ohio, participated in the background action during the battle scenes in Cleveland. Staff Sergeant Michael T. Landis noted that the involvement of real soldiers enhanced the realism of the scenes and portrayed the military positively, citing their ability to provide on-the-spot corrections to tactics and uniforms. The NASA Plum Brook Station near Sandusky, Ohio, specifically its Space Power Facility, doubled as a S.H.I.E.L.D. research facility, 106. Filming also occurred at the Chevrolet powertrain plant in Parma, Ohio, where a series of explosions were captured for the battle sequence originating in Cleveland. Additional scenes were shot at Public Square and the Detroit Superior Bridge, with Public Square's southwest quadrant transformed into Stuttgart, Germany, for filming. Principal photography concluded in New York City, where filming took place over a span of 2 days. Filming locations included Park Avenue and Central Park. To capture scenes set in Manhattan, visual effects supervisor Jake Morrison spent over 3 days shooting aerial footage to use as background plates. Morrison emphasized the importance of incorporating real imagery into the effects work to enhance realism, stating, "There is no substitute for starting with a real image and adding what you need." Cinematographer Seamus McGarvey explained that he chose a 1.85:1 aspect ratio to accommodate the varying heights of the main characters. He said, "Shooting 1.85:1 is kind of unusual for an epic film like this, but we needed the height in the screen to be able to frame in all the characters like Hulk, Captain America, and Black Widow, who is much smaller. We had to give them all precedence and width within the frame." Also, Joss Whedon knew the final battle sequence was going to be this extravaganza in Manhattan, so the height and vertical scale of the buildings was going to be really important. This film marked McGarvey's first experience using a digital camera, specifically the Arri Alexas. Additionally, the Canon EOS 5D Mark II and Canon EOS 7D digital SLR cameras were employed for certain shots, while high-speed shots were captured on 35mm film using the Arriflex 435. McGarvey emphasized a visual approach focused on immersion and naturalism, stating, "Joss and I were keen on having a very visceral and naturalistic quality to the image. We wanted this to feel immersive and did not want a comic book look that might distance an audience with the engagement of the film. We moved the camera a lot on Steadicam, cranes, and on dollies to create kinetic images. And we chose angles that were dramatic, like low angles for heroic imagery." Post-production. In December 2011, Disney announced the film would undergo a conversion to 3D. According to Whedon, "I'm not a big fan of extreme long-lens, talky movies. I like to see the space I'm in and relate to it, so 3D kind of fits my aesthetic anyway, and the technology has advanced so far in the past couple years." Whedon also noted, "There definitely are movies that shouldn't be in 3D, but stated, The Avengers isn't obnoxiously 3D. There's no, oh look, we're going to spend 20 minutes going through this tunnel because it's in 3D. And no one is pointing at the screen the entire time, but it's an action movie. Things tend to hurtle toward the screen anyway." In January 2012, it was reported that the film would undergo digital remastering for IMAX 3D and would open in IMAX theaters on May 4, 2012, the same day as its regular theater release. This IMAX release followed Marvel's earlier IMAX releases of Iron Man 2 and Thor. Initially, when the film was submitted to the Motion Picture Association of America's rating board, it received an R rating due to Phil Coulson's death scene. The scene was subsequently edited to secure a PG-13 rating. In a May 2012 interview, Whedon revealed that it was his decision to include Thanos in a post-credits scene, even though the character is not identified in the film. "He, for me, is the most powerful and fascinating Marvel villain. He's the great-granddaddy of the badasses, and he's in love with death, and I just think that's so cute. For me, the greatest Avengers comic book was Avengers Annual, 1977, that Jim Starlin did, followed by Marvel 2-in-1 Annual No. 2, 1977, that contained the death of Adam Warlock. Those were some of the most important texts, and I think underrated milestones in Marvel history, and Thanos is all over that, so somebody had to be in control and had to be behind Loki's work. And I was like, it's gotta be Thanos. And they said okay, and I'm like, oh my god." Additionally, an extra scene featuring the Avengers enjoying shawarma was filmed on April 12, 2012, a day after the world premiere. Evans wore a prosthetic jaw during the scene to conceal the beard he had grown. Following the film's release, shawarma sales in Los Angeles, St. Louis, and Boston reportedly saw a significant surge. Whedon explained that the inspiration for the shawarma scene came from the aftermath of filming a scene in the Angel episode A Hole in the World, where Fred dies in Wesley's arms. After filming, Whedon, along with actors Amy Acker and Denisov, who played Fred and Wesley respectively, went out for drinks and ended up just sitting around quietly, exhausted from the day's events, an experience that Whedon recreated in the film's scene. The film features over 2,200 visual effects shots completed by 14 companies. Industrial Light and Magic ILM, Weta Digital, Scanline VFX, Hydraulx, Fuel VFX, Evil Eye Pictures, Luma Pictures, Cantina Creative, Trickster, Modus FX, Whiskey Tree, Digital Domain, The Third Floor, and Method Design. ILM was the lead vendor and shared responsibility for creating many of the film's key effects, including the helicarrier, the New York cityscape, digital body doubles, Iron Man, and the Hulk. To bring the Hulk to life on screen, Ruffalo performed in a motion capture suit on set alongside the other actors, while 4 motion capture HD cameras, 2 capturing his full body and 2 focused on his face, recorded his facial and body movements. Jeff White, ILM's visual effects supervisor, aimed for a more realistic depiction of the Hulk, compared to the one seen in Ang Lee's 2003 film, stating, "We really wanted to utilize everything we've developed the last 10 years and make it a pretty spectacular Hulk." One of the great design decisions was to incorporate Mark Ruffalo into the look of him. So much of Hulk is based on Ruffalo and his performance, not only in motion capture and on set, but down to his eyes, his teeth, and his tongue. ILM digitally recreated the majority of the New York cityscape featured in the film, covering approximately 10 city blocks by 4 city blocks. To accomplish this, ILM dispatched a team of 4 photographers for an 8-week shoot to capture images of the area. Tyson Bidner, the New York location manager for the film, played a crucial role in securing the rights to nearly every building's likeness needed by ILM. Initially, there were plans to include Oscorp Tower from The Amazing Spider-Man 2012 in the film, as Disney and Sony Pictures had agreed to it. However, this idea was abandoned because much of the skyline had already been finalized. Weta Digital assumed responsibility for animating Iron Man during the forest duel, taking over from ILM. Guy Williams, Weta's visual effects supervisor, explained, "We shared assets back and forth with ILM, but our pipelines are unique, and it's hard for other assets to plug into it. But in this case, we got their models and we had to redo the texture spaces because the way we texture maps is different." Williams highlighted that the most challenging aspect was reproducing Iron Man's reflective metal surfaces. Scanline VFX handled the reveal shots of the helicarrier, from Black Widow and Captain America's arrival on the carrier deck to its liftoff. Evil Eye Pictures integrated digital backgrounds into green screen footage for scenes set inside the helicarrier. Colin Strauss from Hydraulx mentioned their contribution, stating, "We did the opening 10 minutes of the movie, other than the opening setup in space, covering Loki's arrival on Earth and his subsequent escape from the S-Shield base." Luma Pictures focused on the helicarrier's bridge shots and integrated the graphic monitor displays developed by Cantina Creative. Fuel VFX handled shots in and around Tony Stark's penthouse at Stark Tower. Digital Domain crafted the asteroid environment where Loki encounters the other. Method Design, based in Los Angeles, was responsible for the film's closing credits. Steve Viola, creative director at Method Design, described it as a 2-minute, self-contained main-on-end sequence created entirely in CG. He explained that they designed, modeled, textured, and lit all environments and many foreground objects for each shot. Assets from Marvel were modified extensively to create a post-battle macro sequence. Method Design also crafted a custom typeface for the main title of the Avengers as well as 30 in-scene credits. Music. Further information: The Avengers soundtrack. In November 2011, Marvel announced that Alan Silvestri, who scored Captain America: The First Avenger, would compose the score for The Avengers. Silvestri commented on the challenge of the project, stating, "I've worked on films where there have been a number of stars, and certainly worked on films where there have been characters of equal weight in terms of their level of importance and profile in the film. But this one is somewhat extreme in that regard, because each of these characters has their own world and it's a very different situation. It's very challenging to look for a way to give everyone the weight and consideration they need. But at the same time, the film is really about the coming together of these characters. Which implies that there is this entity called the Avengers, which really has to be representative of all of them together." Silvestri collaborated with the London Symphony Orchestra at Abbey Road Studios in London, England, to develop the score. Whedon praised Silvestri's approach, stating, "The score is very old-fashioned, which is why Silvestri was letter perfect for this movie, because he can give you the heightened emotion, the Hans Zimmer school of "I'm just feeling a lot right now," but he can also be extraordinarily cue and character specific, which I love. In March 2012, the Indian rock band Agni released a music video for their single, Hello Andaron, serving as the theme song for the Indian release of the film. Hollywood Records released the soundtrack concept album inspired by the film, titled Avengers Assemble, on May 1, 2012, coinciding with the release of the score. Marketing trailers. The film was promoted at the 2010 San Diego Comic-Con, featuring a teaser trailer narrated by Samuel L. Jackson, followed by an introduction of the cast. In June 2011, Marvel Studios announced that it would not hold a panel at the 2011 San Diego Comic-Con, as studio executives felt unprepared to meet their own past achievements and fan expectations with filming still in production. Subsequently, in July 2011, a teaser trailer intended as the post-credit scene of Captain America: The First Avenger briefly leaked online. Entertainment Weekly speculated that it originated from a preview screening, describing the footage as shaky, fuzzy, flickering, and obviously filmed on a cell phone. In August 2011, Walt Disney Pictures, Pixar Animation Studios, and Marvel Studios presented a look at Walt Disney Studios' upcoming film slate, which included The Avengers, at the D23 Expo in Anaheim, California. The presentation featured footage from the film and appearances by the cast members. Later in August, Disney dismissed Marvel's Executive Vice President of Worldwide Marketing, Vice President of Worldwide Marketing, and Manager of Worldwide Marketing to bring their functions in-house. In October 2011, Marvel Studios held a presentation at the New York Comic-Con, featuring new footage and a panel discussion including producer Kevin Feige and several cast members. The first full-length trailer was also released in October. Comic Book Resources noted, the 2-minute teaser handily establishes the movie's premise, and is heavy on the assembling, but fans are also treated to plenty of action, as well glimpses of Iron Man's new armor and, best of all, the new take on the Incredible Hulk. Naturally, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark gets the best lines. However, The Hollywood Reporter called it awesome, or it would be if we hadn't seen all of this before and expected every single thing that we saw in the trailer. The trailer, which debuted exclusively on iTunes Movie Trailers, was downloaded over 10 million times in its first 24 hours, breaking the website's record for the most viewed trailer ever. This record was surpassed by the trailer for The Dark Knight Rises, 2012, which was downloaded more than 12.5 million times in its first 24 hours. A second full-length trailer was released on iTunes in February 2012. Reaching a record 13.7 million downloads in 24 hours. The theatrical trailers of The Avengers appeared with many films including Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, 2011, 21 Jump Street, 2012, and The Hunger Games, 2012. In January 2012, Marvel Studios hosted a global Twitter chat. The 30-minute live tweeting event featured writer-director Joss Whedon and cast members Samuel L. Jackson, Tom Hiddleston, and Clark Gregg, along with a 10-second tease of the 30-second commercial that would air during Super Bowl XL6 in February. According to the Los Angeles Times, Disney paid an estimated $4 million for the 30-second spot. On May 1, 2012, executives from Marvel Studios, along with actors Tom Hiddleston and Clark Gregg, rang the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange in honor of the film's theatrical release. Tie-in comics. Further information, Marvel Cinematic Universe tie-in comics. In December 2011, Marvel announced the release of an 8-issue comic book prelude to the film, penned by Christopher Yost and Eric Pearson, with art by Luke Ross and Daniel HDR, for release in March 2012. In February 2012, Marvel revealed plans for a second limited series comic book tie-in titled Black Widow Strikes, written by Fred Van Lente, who wrote Captain America: First Vengeance, the comic book prequel to Captain America: The First Avenger. Set between Iron Man 2 and the Avengers, it follows Black Widow as she ties up loose ends from the former filming sea. Additionally, the title Avengers Assemble debuted in March 2012, written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Mark Bagley, featuring the same Avengers lineup as the film in a battle against a new incarnation of the supervillain Team Zodiac. Promotional partners Paul Gitter, president of consumer products at Marvel Entertainment, noted that the anticipation leading up to the film bolstered retail partnerships. Retailers have been less tolerant with intellectual property films, so we decided that if we started on this coordinated strategy several years ago, retailers would give us shelf space throughout the years, and we would have a more sustainable position in the marketplace. In September 2011, photos emerged online showing Robert Downey Jr. driving a new model Acura. An Acura spokesperson later confirmed the company's involvement with the film, stating, "As you may know, Acura has been in the Marvel Comics Universe films as the official car of their fictional law enforcement agency called S.H.I.E.L.D. That relationship continues for the Avengers. The open-top sports car that was photographed yesterday is a one-off fictional car that was made just for the movie and will not be produced. That said, as you may also know, our CEO has said publicly that we are studying the development of a new sports car, but we can't say any more about it at this time." In December 2011, Acura announced that a new NSX, styled along the lines of the concept built for the Avengers, would be unveiled at the 2012 North American International Auto Show. Additionally, a series of 10 S.H.I.E.L.D. SUVs, based on the Acura MDX with modifications by Cinema Vehicle Services, were also created for the film. Box office. The Avengers grossed $623.4 million in the United States and Canada, and $195.5 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $1.519 billion, making it the third highest-grossing film of all time, the highest-grossing film of 2012, the highest-grossing comic book adaptation, the highest-grossing superhero film, and the highest-grossing film ever released by Walt Disney Studios at the time of its release. The film's worldwide opening of $392.5 million ranked as the fourth largest before. The Avengers also became the fifth film distributed by Disney and the 12th film overall to earn more than $1 billion. It reached this milestone in 19 days, matching the record previously set by Avatar 2009 and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 2011. United States and Canada. The film became the third highest-grossing film of all time, the highest-grossing film of 2012, the highest-grossing film distributed by Disney, the highest-grossing superhero film, and the highest-grossing film based on comics. It opened Friday, May 4, 2012, on around 11,800 screens across 4,349 theaters, earning $80.8 million, marking the second biggest opening and second biggest single-day gross. The film's Friday gross included an $18.7 million midnight run, a record for a superhero film. Without midnight grosses, the film earned the largest opening day gross, $62.1 million. It also set records for Saturday and Sunday grosses, $69.6 million and $57.1 million, respectively. In total, it earned $207,438,708 for its debut weekend, setting an opening weekend record, including an IMAX opening weekend record of $15.3 million and a record for opening weekend grosses originating from 3D showings, $108 million. The opening weekend audience was evenly split between those under and over the age of 25, with 60% male, 55% couples, 24% families, and 21% teenagers. Earning $103.1 million on its second weekend, the film set a record for the largest second weekend gross string. Other records set by the film include the biggest weekend per theater average for a wide release, $47,698 per theater, the fastest film to reach $100 million and each additional $50 million through $550 million, and the largest cumulative gross through every day of release until, and including its 43rd day, with the exception of its first day. It remained in first place at the box office for 3 consecutive weekends. The film set a record for the highest monthly share, with its $532.5 million total, through May 31, 2012, accounting for 52% of the total earnings at the box office during May. Distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Release dates April 11, 2012, El Capan Theater, May 4, 2012. United States running time 143 minutes, Country United States, language English, budget 220 to 225 million, box office $1.51 billion. So guys, this is their view of the Avengers movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting, and if you like this video, like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe.